And let's start with Neil. Neil is feeling really bad as he talks to an unconscious Hilary. He's telling her that he knows he should have took her to the hospital, but he can't chance it. He's very frustrated when he turns and he sees the news on television where there's a reporter that's basically accusing Devon of Hilary's disappearance. And of course, Neil, as his dad and knowing the truth about everything, doesn't like that. He gets really mad, he gets upset, and he turns the television off. As he is shouting over Hilary to wake up, he's asking her to give him some type of sign to let him know that she's fine. He gets a phone call, and on his cell phone is Devon. So Devon tells him that he needs to talk to him. And Neil says, yeah, well, I need to talk to you too. Going forward, Gwen and Devon meet in the park. And when they meet in the park, she begins to tell him that she and his dad have been spending a lot of time together, and they're getting pretty close, and she was not sure if he knew about it or not. Devon tells her that he knew, and he don't have anything to do with that, and she don't need approval from him. She goes on to say that Hilary is not the only one that's in trouble. She tells him that Neil is too. Devon tells her right away, I don't want to get in the middle of you guys' relationship, so just kind of keep me out of it. But then she begins to share her suspicions about Neil and the possibility of him stealing Emma's hospital badge and that he may be using drugs, because they saw him the other day at the hospital coming out of the medical supply closet. And then here it is now, Emily's hospital badge is missing. And Devon goes on to tell her that Neil never had a problem with drugs. It's always been alcohol, but he does know sometimes, when you stop doing one, you will start doing the other one. But he's never had a problem with drugs. Devon eventually calls Neil and tells him he wants to meet him in the park, so they meet in the park. And Devon tells him that they found out a little information about Hilary. They found out she was taken away on a private jet. And, of course, Neil wants to talk about it. Well, what happened? Who knows what? And Devon changes the subject so that he could find out what's going on with Neil. So he tells Neil that Gwen called him and told him what's happening with him, and she believes that he's using drugs. So, of course, Neil got upset because, first of all, Gwen crossed the line. There was no need in you calling his son and trying to tell his son anything, especially if you didn't have any concrete evidence to say that the man is using drugs. So she crossed the line right there. So Devon asked him if he's on drugs. Neil gets offended, of course, like he should have, and then he tells Devon that he's not on drugs. He's never used drugs. And then he says, well, I have to tell you the truth about something. I'm responsible for Hilary's disappearance. And then he goes on to tell her that he had been drinking some, and of course what he'll do is he'll go to the AA meetings, he'll go to anything and everything he has to do to get himself cleaned up. And then Devon tries to convince him that, it's not your fault that Hilary is missing. There's nothing that you could have done about it. And then Neil goes over again that he'll go to some meetings, he'll get himself cleaned up, and everything will be fine. And at that point, Devon just lets him know that he has his support. And, of course, Neil says, well, I'm not deserving of it. Kevin walks Mariah into work at the underground where she tries to rush him off. The both of them seem a little uncomfortable when he gives her a little kiss and they say goodbye. Marissa and Noah begin to tease Mariah about what they believe happened between her and Kevin last night. And they're curious to know what is going on with Mariah, because Mariah is acting kind of awkward. She's acting a little strange. They're really not sure what's going on, because if you and Kevin had sex last night, you should be acting a whole different way. But she's acting that way because she later admits to them that they spent the night together and they did have sex. And they had sex, but for her, it was like the dullest sex that she has ever had. It was just pitiful, sorry. So she said it was like the worst. It was like reading a dictionary. So then she tells Marissa and Noah that she doesn't know how to tell Kevin that it was the worst sex she ever had. She not knowing, on the other hand, Kevin is complaining to Mike at the station that the sex he had with Mariah was the worst he ever had. So it's best for them to just stay friends. So Mike told Kevin just to be sure to tell her, tell her what's going on, and then that way you don't mess up a good friendship. So Kevin agreed to it, and he said, yeah, well, I'll talk to her. So going forward, you have Dylan and Paul who are talking at the station, where Dylan is telling him that he believes Colin is implicated in Hilary's disappearance in some kind of way. And he wants Paul to do a search of Colin's bank account, because if there's some type of spending of large amounts of money or something going on, that could lead him to something. And Paul tells him that they can't get a warrant just to check a man's bank accounts, but they can go around the system to find something out. So he opens up the curtain, and there is Kevin sitting in a little office on a computer. So Kevin begins to do some research for him when he finds large amounts of cash have been deposited right before Devon and Hilary's wedding. And he also saw where there was money spent on escorts. So Kevin gives Dylan this information. Dylan runs off, and Dylan runs off to meet up with the hooker from Devon's bachelor party. She tells him that she has to be paid first before she could talk about anything. So that's a hooker for you. Pay me first and I'll talk later. So the hooker said that she never had sex with him, but someone paid her to say that she had sex with him. And of course he asked her who paid her off, and she was saying, well, you know, I can't tell you that. So of course he gives her more cash. And then she says to him, she fingered a guy to the side of her and said, you might want to ask the guy that passed out the big bucks. When Dylan turns to look, it's Colin standing there. So Dylan begins to ask Colin all type of questions, you know, well, what was going on. And right away, Colin jumped to the defense, because he's saying, well, you don't have a police badge. You know, you might want to lay off from asking me all those questions. And in fact, you're going in the wrong direction. Why don't you go ask the person that doesn't want the happy couple to be happy? And then you have Kevin, who's back at the underground, where him and Mariah are trying to figure out this thing to tell each other about this bad sex that they had with each other. So Kevin begins to tell Mariah how bad the sex was and how it wasn't great at all. He didn't enjoy it, and he doesn't want to do it again. And Mariah is thinking he's complimenting everything that happened, but then she catches on, and she says, oh, wow, okay, good. She was relieved because they both agreed that it was terrible sex. It's like they need to stay friends. So they decide to go back to being friends, and she tells him that the little earlobe thing that he does is a bad thing, and he might not ever want to do that again. So then he tells her that that growl thing that you do, you might not want to do that anymore, because that's a turn off. And then Kevin and Mariah say they're going out to celebrate never having to have sex with each other again. So of course they leave, and then you have Noah and Marissa. Noah and Marissa are kind of hanging around. They begin kissing. So this tall, good-looking, slender, well-dressed, groomed Latino man walks in with beautiful dark hair, just gorgeous. Dylan says to him that, I'm sorry, we're closed. So he says right away, well, don't worry about that. I'm here to see my wife. And then he says hello to Marissa. So Marissa has a husband. So it's getting ready to really be some hot stuff going down. And when she turned around and looked at him, she could have fell out all by herself. Poor little Hilary is back at the boat's house, and her hands actually move because she can hear Devon's voice on the television where Devon is doing an interview at the news station. And then you have Dylan, who's having a conversation with Neil to tell him that he had a conversation with Colin. Colin hinted around that he might be involved in Hilary's disappearance, talking about Neil. There's a lot going on The Young and the Restless. Like the video if you like it, comment if you have a comment, be sure to subscribe for more recaps and reviews. Darlene Knight, your reality and soap chat. Thanks for watching.